explain that if we have one-to-one relationship, then how we can implement it in Microsoft Access. For example, we have two entities. One entity is car and other entity is engine. So the relationship between this car and engine is one to one, because one car have only one engine and one engine could be only fitted into one car. So this is one to one relationship. Now how we can implement it? So for implementation of this, there are different rules, but the simple rule is that car depends on engine depends on car. So one way is that to use the car ID. For example, this car ID is its attribute car name, and make and the model. For example, these are its attribute. So this car ID is the primary key of car entity, and engine has its own engine ID and capacity and other attributes. So this engine ID is its primary key. Now there are different ways that how we can do it, how we can implement it in MS Access. So one way is that you put the foreign key in the dependent side. So engine is dependent on the car, so I will put the car ID over here. In this is car ID, and this will be the foreign key in this engine entity, and we will connect this car with this car ID. But here when we are implementing it, there will be an issue, and the issue is that MS Access or any other DBMS that will represent it as one to many relationship rather than one to one relationship. So there are let's see, for example, I am going to implement it in MS Access, and I am going to open an already created BTM. For example, this is a database, and I will be going and creating a table. First, let me create its car ID and take it as a number, and car make, for example, text model is number, and for example type, any other attribute you can take it, and car ID is my primary key, so I will select this as primary key and will close it and save it as TBL car. Now I'm going to create the other second entity, and that is engine. Let me duplicate this table. uh, for example, I can copy and paste it as a copy of the car, and I make it, I'm saying that it is TBL engine. I can create it as the previous one, or I can duplicate it and then update it. Let me update and distribute engine ID, and let's this engine ID, and this engine ID is its primary key, and let's make it what is the capacity of this engine, CC in CC, for example, and delete these row. So as we explained here that one of the way of implementing one-to-one relationship is that put the primary key of the car, that is car ID, over here, and this engine is the foreign key. And why we are putting it, one rule is that put the foreign key on the side of the entity which is dependent. By dependent we mean that if there is a car, there will be an engine. So engine depends on the existence of a car. So let's add this car ID here is a foreign key. Car ID, and I will put it as the number and will save it. But when I will go to the relationship creation stage and I add both the attribute, both the table, I will show here the table and will add them. Okay, and when I will create the relationship car ID primary key and car ID is the foreign key. So when I will drag it and release it, it will always give me one-to-many relationship. What does this mean? This means that MXX cannot prevent, the DBMS cannot prevent it, and it understands that one car can have many engine. But actually, we have to enforce this constraint that the relationship between one car and car and engine is one to one. So how we can enforce it? There are two ways. The first way is that you have to apply the unique constraint on the car ID in the engine entity. How we can do it? Uh, Open it in design view and come to this car ID, and when you click on this car ID, here are many attributes, and in this attribute go to the index. Here it says that yes, it is duplicate is okay. We will make it that it should be unique. By unique we mean that it should not have no duplicate value. So change the property from duplicate to non-duplicate. So we cannot add primary key and this foreign key we cannot add a duplicate value, and this will enforce, this is the constraint, unique constraint, and this unique constraint will make this relationship one to one. Now let's go and delete this relationship and now come and drag it again, and you will see that this relationship will be one to one. So this is the way that how we can implement one to one relationship in MSXs. The second way is that, which is the recommended one, that tells us that when you are, for example, you are uh, creating this relationship between these two entities, what you have to do, you have to take this entity. For example, this is the car and this is the engine. So keep the same ID. For example, I am putting car ID is the primary key here. So what you have to do, you have to put the same car ID as the primary key in this engine entity, and this car ID will act as foreign key for this one as well. So it will be primary key and foreign key both, and you can add the rest of attribute, for example engine ID and capacity and other attributes it has, and similarly this car other attribute of the car. And now when you will do this way, mean keep the same primary key, in both the table, and whose primary key will be put in which entity. So it's again the simple rule is that keep that on the dependent side. So engine existence depends on the existence of the car. If there is a car, then there will be an engine. So car can exist, but engine without a car cannot exist. So this is the most recommended way of implementing one-to-one relationship. Now let's see and update our implementation accordingly. So how we could do it, delete this relationship from here and come here, update this design, and instead of this car engine ID, you update the primary key to this one, car ID, is primary key here, and at X is a foreign key for the car entity. Now save it and go and now connect these two. And now you will see that this relationship will be one-to-one relationship. So here this car ID act as the primary key for this engine and the foreign key as well within the engine table for this car entity. So this is how we can implement one-to-one relationship, and there are other conditions of one-to-one relationship implementation as well. We may talk about that in future. So thank you.